Good afternoon, my conscious co-creators. Welcome to another edition of the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. I am very, very pleased that you are all here with me today. We've got another wonderful show in store for you today with a dear old friend, a guest who I've known for many years, who I'm looking forward to bringing on. But first, of course, we have my blog post from a couple of years ago. This one's kind of a good one. I like this one. This one is entitled, We See Others Not as They Are, but as Who They Remind Us of. Sometimes we confuse ourselves. We look at how we react to another person with surprise. Why did we do that, we may ask ourselves? For it did not make sense in that context. Or perhaps we meet someone and we immediately like or dislike them. There was no specific reason why. Maybe we just felt something. There could have been something about their mannerisms or their tone of voice. And there might have been nothing we picked up on that would warrant the kind of reaction we gave them. So we try to be logical and we try to talk ourselves into liking them or not. Yet that doesn't work for some reason. Something about them pulls us in or aggravates us. Without them even saying a word, we sense something drawing us towards them, yet that is happening below our level of awareness. So why is that? Why are we trying so hard to please them or push them away? The more we think about it, the more it doesn't make sense. We sit with the feeling sometimes for hours until it comes to us. An answer so surprising, we have a hard time believing it. Yet the answer clears up all the confusion. It was never about the other person. The whole thing was about who they remind us of. The feeling we would have, the feeling we would have around these other people. Perhaps they remind us of a parent, a sibling, or a school bully. They may have even reminded us of an old lover or former spouse. Whoever it is that they remind us of, that is who we are truly responding to, not the person in front of us. When this realization comes to us, it is important that we have compassion for ourselves. For that familiar feeling can be so subtle that we can easily miss it. We can be in the space of reacting to someone based on our feelings for a different person from a long time before we gain clarity. If we ever get there at all, we rarely see others as they truly are. Our vision of them is a pattern we match to our past, to whom they are like. No one else might ever make that connection, yet we do. It is a connection of energy, not a connection of looks or sounds. To our unconscious, we are just like this other person we had an experience with before. So they frighten us, calm us, agitate us, or appeal to us because of an energy we match to a past experience, which makes it completely understandable that we reacted the way we did. The important thing is once we manage to have this revelation, we can be more conscious about our choices around them. We can look at them from their own merits and not from some phantom memory. rarely do we ever see someone for who they truly are when they are in front of us. When we can recognize that our mind's bias, when we can recognize what our mind's bias is, then we can decide for ourselves if it is accurate or not. And then we can see them for who they truly are. So I wrote this blog post a couple of years ago after a rather personal revelation. Um, my wife and I were having a small group, and it was a group of people from the Orthodox Jewish community that we used to work with. It was a small group, and there was a couple there, that this woman and this man, and they were, a nice couple. The woman was a therapist. I forget. I think the guy was retired. They were both older, and I found myself trying to overly please them during the session that we were working together. Like, I wanted to make sure they felt good. I wanted to make sure they were having a good experience. I was really um so focused on them in a way that just didn't make sense. It was like, for some reason, I was fawning all over them when there was actually no reason to. And not that they expected it, they didn't do anything. It was totally not about them. And when I was talking about it with my wife after the session, we were just discussing it a little bit. And she kind of pointed out how I was acting with them, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? They kind of reminded me of my parents a little bit. The man was kind of quiet and reserved and didn't say much, which is like my father. And the woman was much more like outgoing and friendly and talking and trying to help everyone. She kind of reminded me of my mom a little bit. They did not look at all like my mother or father. Um, I would say even their mannerisms really weren't, I mean, other than the fact that they were Jewish and my parents were Jewish, but there was something about their energy. And it was something about the energy of the two of them together that just struck a very deep chord inside of me that I was completely unaware of. And I unconsciously kind of turned into this little kid trying to please his parents, trying to make his parents happy. And it was like, once I saw the connection, then like everything made sense. But I was so completely unaware of it in the moment. And so it was such a profound experience for me. I wrote this blog post about it because I'd never had that experience so clearly. And then I realized when I reflected on it that there are many times that I've had people come together in our groups where someone is triggered by another person and they never met before. And it's not really about the other person, it's about who they reminded them of. Or someone is immediately drawn to another person. And it's kind of like, I've had female friends of mine who come to me and they used to, complain about all the boyfriends they were dating, and it was always the same guy. It was always the same guy in a different relationship because they were drawn to that energy for some reason. And so, when I had this experience, I just felt it was important to kind of shine a light on it, to kind of share that, because if it happened to me, I'm sure it happens to all of you. I think we all, at some point in our lives, have met someone who we had a strong reaction to without any justification for that strong reaction. And it can be a positive or negative strong reaction. And it can be because of what they did or what they said or none of it, just the feeling we get from them. And so this blog post is really about learning to be more conscious and more aware of our responses to the people who come into our orbit and noticing when the degree to our response doesn't make sense, to kind of be curious about that and see who that person might remind us of, what their energy might remind us of. And I just kind of feel like if we're all a little bit, just a little bit more conscious, more aware of that, that we could probably avoid a lot of difficult situations that we get ourselves into because, again, we're not responding to the person in front of us. We're responding to some memory of the way someone was in our life many, many years ago. All right. So that's my blog post. Again, the title is We See Others Not as They Are, but as Who They Remind Us of. And of course, you can always find my blog post on my personally branded website, theconsciousconsultant.com, and on the station's website at talkradio.nyc/blog. Okay, now it is my extreme pleasure to welcome to the show Scott Schilling, sales strategist, speaker, and leadership expert known as the Authentic Connector, and someone I am pleased to call my friend. With over 40 years of experience and more than 3,000 live presentations delivered around the world, Scott helped hundreds of thousands of individuals and organizations elevate their impact. From sharing stages with icons like Colin Powell, Suze Orman, and Jack Canfield to selling millions in products and services from the stage, Scott brings both credibility and heart to everything he does. Scott loves to share his core philosophy that selling is not about pushing, it's about serving. He reveals how aligning purpose, process, and persuasion allows leaders and entrepreneurs to connect more authentically, influence more effectively, and grow their business without losing themselves in the process. Welcome to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Scott.
Thanks, Sam. It's so awesome to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure, my pleasure. It's always nice when I can bring somebody on who I've known for as many years as I have with you. And I can't even remember if we first met at the EBC or if it was at CEO Space, but I know it was at one of them.
Well, I think it actually was CEO Space ahead of EBC, but
EBC, I
I
think
think
so.
we kind of high-fived each other at EBC because we had already met before.
Right, right, right. And God, that was almost 20 years ago. I think that was like 19 years ago. Wow.
Yep.
Long time. Time passes fast. So I always love to give my audience, a little bit of background of context for our guests. So I'm just curious, like, were you like the kid with like selling papers on a paper route? Were you always kind of like entrepreneurial minded and sort of sales minded as a kid, or was this something that kind of developed later in life?
Uh, well, it's interesting. My dad was going to speak at the Toastmasters International Convention in Los Angeles. I grew up in Milwaukee.
Ah,
And we were taking the Amtrak train from Milwaukee to Los Angeles. That can kind of give you some framework on time.
wow.
And I walked up and down the aisle yelling, "Tickets, tickets, who needs tickets?" And people would say, "I do, I do." And I'd scribble on a pad of paper, rip off a piece of paper, hand it to them, and they handed me some change. And
Uh,
by the time we got from Milwaukee to Los Angeles, I had $52 in change. And
wow.
oh, by the way, I was four.
Oh my
So
God.
So I was selling people tickets to a train they were already on a long time ago.
Oh, that
But
is
but
funny.
really, I became a licensed life insurance agent when I was 18 years old while I was going to school and playing Big Ten football. Not necessarily because I wanted to sell life insurance, but I wanted to learn how to
Mm,
talk to people. I
mm,
recognized that I was going to get a Bachelor of Business Administration degree in marketing, and what was going to differentiate me at a time where nobody was getting jobs coming out of college, even with
mm,
degrees. And
mm.
so that personal face-to-face communication ability gave me seven choices at a time when most people had none. And
Wow.
so it was really about learning how to communicate, how to talk with people, how to show respect, honor, and dignity from the beginning. And that decision as an 18-year-old gave me choices ultimately the rest of my life.
Mm, mm. And how did you end up on stages with people like Colin Powell, Suze Orman, and Jack Canfield? I mean, that not a lot of people can kind of claim that.
No, I was always I was a sales guy. I
Hmm.
learned how to present and really understand that selling was serving. Actually,
Mm.
during that same period of time when early in my career, I read See You at the Top by the
Ah,
great Zig Ziglar.
Zig Ziglar book, yeah.
And there was a quote in that book that forever set my course in life, both personally and professionally, and that is, you can have everything in life you want when you simply help enough other people get what they want.
They want. Hmm.
Well, I always saw selling as serving, as Zig did.
Mm,
And because people overcomplicate the whole sales process, it's only four words: identify
mm,
problem, provide solution. They get
mm,
all enamored with their solution and they forget to find out about the problem. And so, if
mm,
somebody truly has a problem or a challenge in their life, and you truly have a solution that benefits them, selling is actually a service. And so
mm,
I learned from the street level up, actually selling retail early in my career, became a national sales trainer, rocketed through the company, youngest sales manager in company history, youngest divisional manager in company history. And then I went on to do more things in the corporate space and both consulting space. But I
mm,
really felt a tug that said, I can positively impact more lives if I turn my experiences to date into platform speaking. And so
ah,
I set out to be the next Jack Canfield or Les Brown or
mm,
Zig Ziglar. And as it turned out, I was blessed to be able to share the stage with all of them and many, many more throughout my career. And what I learned was presenting and serving people with respect, honor, and dignity is truly a
mm,
noble profession. And if you truly want to positively impact lives, learn
mm,
how to communicate a message.
mm, mm. It's so interesting because most people have such a negative view of sales. They think about like the sleazy used car salesman. But that's sort of like a negative archetype of the salesman, isn't it? And there's a much different archetype of selling that you work with.
Yeah, well, I would suggest this. The Webster's definition of sales is the exchange of a product, good, or service for an amount of money or its
Mm,
equivalent. In
mm,
other words, you're exchanging something of value to somebody in return for something of value.
mm,
Well, um, I created my own heart-centered selling definition of sales, which is education through communication without manipulation.
ah,
Selling is actually teaching. It's teaching about the features, advantages, and benefits our products, goods, and services have and offer to satisfy people's needs, wants, and desires. And what
mm,
I would suggest is people don't dislike salespeople because they're
mm,
serving them. What I
mm.
would suggest is they dislike manipulators. A
Ah, okay.
manipulator causes an action for their own good. A
mm,
sales professional causes action for the customer's good. One is manipulation, the other one is persuasion. Persuasion is designed to share the benefits of how the recipient will receive that product, good, or service. So again, I think the real differentiation, I don't, if people truly would understand that selling is serving, they would truly understand that it's actually a tremendously noble profession
mm,
done well. And
mm,
that's what I've worked my entire career to train people on and to also implement and execute as an example myself.
mm, mm. Have you ever sold a product or service you didn't believe in?
No,
Uh,
that's the thing that, in my opinion, you've got to be a product of the product. You've got to be a student of the industry. I don't believe personally, and there are many people who teach differently, and there are many people who act differently, that the means justify the ends. And I don't
yeah.
agree with that. If I am very proud, and I have sold millions and millions and millions of dollars of products, goods, and services to people. The
Mhm,
thing I'm proudest of is that those products, goods, and services were sold only to the people who they served.
mm,
It was not a process of quote unquote selling to sell. It was
mhm,
selling to serve.
mm, mm. Yeah, because I think a lot of people kind of have this idea that selling is this pushy kind of endeavor. Like you gotta push people to buy what you're selling. And it sounds like you take more the educational approach, and it's more about attracting the people who are interested in what you're talking about.
Exactly. If I can understand, the only person who knows why you will take action or not take action is
Hmm.
you. The
Hmm.
the challenge is so many salespeople are trained or never bother to find out what your problem is, what your
Mm.
challenge is, or why
Yeah.
you would or wouldn't take action. I don't complicate it. I ask a very simple question. What's your challenge?
Mm.
How would your life be better if you didn't have that challenge?
Mm.
How do you think you could get there?
Mm.
Right? And the point is, it's really about matching the problem, the challenge that somebody has with the appropriate solution. And so one of the things that I suggest is, as a professional, as a sales professional, become an asset to everyone you meet. Asset is a five-letter acronym for a spontaneous servant every time.
Mm.
Become a spontaneous servant, the rest kind of takes care of itself. If you come to me and you have a need for a solution, but it's not a solution that I deal with personally,
Mhm.
I pride myself on getting to know solution providers who have those types of
Mm.
solutions. And I
Mm.
make the referral or make the recommendation. I become an asset to you,
Mm.
and I ultimately serve you, and I ultimately serve my friend
Mhm.
who
Who you're
offers the
serving.
solution, right? I've helped
Right.
two people along the way. I
Right.
think the greatest challenge is when people have a round solution and they're talking to people with square problems, and
Yeah.
they try to fit their round solution into a square problem.
Mm.
That's where the problem gets created.
Mm.
It's not
Mm.
so much the now it gets assigned to the fact that somebody forcefully or inappropriately works to get them to take the action.
Right.
If you don't do that in the first place, you don't have those challenges. It's so
Right.
funny. I
Right.
was just doing a podcast earlier, and we talked about one of my coaching clients said, I'm horrible at sales. And so I said, so how does that work for you? And they said, not very well. I said, what do you think you could do to make that better? She said, probably learn sales. I said, do you know anybody who could help with that? And she said, well, yeah, you. And I said, would you like me to help you with that? She goes, I would be honored. I said, are you asking me to be your coach? She goes, absolutely. I said, okay. Now, what part of that was salesy? None
Mm,
of it. It
mm,
was it was supplying a solution to somebody who had a problem.
mhm,
And by the way, after our first month of coaching together, she said the other day, this is the largest revenue month I've ever had in my business
mm,
because she is now presenting and looking at it differently. See, when you treat
mm,
people with
mhm.
respect, honor, and dignity, it's amazing what happens.
Yeah, 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 100%, 100%. You know, the other thing I find people don't realize is we're all kind of salespeople in one way or another, aren't we? Because whether we're selling a product or service, or we're trying to convince our spouse to go out to dinner with us to a certain restaurant, or we're telling a friend about a movie we love, or we're trying to just tell someone, oh, I did this thing, it was wonderful, you should try it too. That it's not necessarily that we're trying to actually physically sell them something, but we're trying to sell an idea, aren't we? And we do that
The,
all the time.
the reality is it's one of the things that I do is I work to demystify the selling process. We're
Mm,
all selling every minute of every day.
mm,
That's a dramatic statement. Scott, prove it. Okay. Have you ever been on a date? You made a sale. Have you
mhm.
ever put a kid to bed? You made a sale. Are you married? You're better at this than you think. You were the product. So the reality is selling is simply communicating a point for consideration. The other
Mm,
side either accepts it or counters it. If they
mm,
counter it, it's now called objection handling. And see, it's how
mm,
people frame it. And that's why I work to help people understand selling is truly serving when you come from a heart-centered,
mm,
strategic, relational approach.
mm, Beautiful. Beautiful. And that's the thing. People often would never equate heart-centered with selling and be able to put them together in a single sentence. Yet, and this is why I'm having you on the show, because there are lots of sales coaches out there, lots of salespeople, but finding someone like yourself who's so heart-centered and who's really about serving, and that's, to me, that's true leadership. Like I'm one of those people who believes that all leaders are servants. And
Mhm.
if you're going to lead, you're going to lead through service. And if you lead through fear or intimidation or anything else, then you're not truly serving people.
Totally. It's exactly why my logo is two S's coming together to form a heart on top. It's
Ah,
about strategic, heartfelt, relational uh, relations. I mean, it's about authentic
hmm.
relationships. Why my moniker is the authentic connector.
Oh yeah, the two S's like facing each other, like two people like talking to each other, right?
Yep, exactly.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about like what you actually do today for people after, you've been doing this a long, long time. You don't have to keep working, but you still offer your service to people. So what you actually do, and maybe let's bust a couple of myths that people have in general around sales and selling. Okay, Scott?
Perfect. Look forward to it.
Excellent. So, everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We do this every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on talkradio.nyc and all over social media. And we'll be right back with our guest, Scott Schilling, in just a moment. Are you a spiritual seeker? Are you interested in expanded states of reality? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will dive into these topics with authors, teachers, researchers, and guides. Tune in at our new time, Wednesdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's the Conscious Consultant Hour, Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
And welcome back. So, Scott, you've been doing this, as you said, a long time. You're probably well off. I don't know, maybe not, but I mean, you've done a lot. What motivates you these days? What gets you out of bed in the morning, and how are you serving people these days?
Well, thanks, Sam. I think the one thing that as we get more mature, that's code word for older, we have the opportunity to make a decision, right?
Right.
And we can either utilize the knowledge, the expertise, the experiences, the wisdom we've gained over time to serve the greater good, or we can go hang on a beach. And hanging on a
Mhm.
beach is cool, but
Mhm.
hanging on a beach in deference to sharing all those other attributes doesn't make sense to me.
Mhm.
When I 25 plus years ago, when I went speaking professionally, I created my mission statement to create a
Mhm.
community of 1 million or more, maximizing them personally, professionally, spiritually, and financially, to create
Mhm.
enough influence to cause over $100 million in charitable giving, and to
Mhm.
positively impact 1 billion or more lives on the planet.
Wow.
And I've been blessed. I've done 3,000 live events. I've done
Mhm.
25,000 person arenas. I've had many, many, many people sitting in chairs in front of me. The point is, I've ticked off a lot of that mission, but not all of it.
Uh-huh.
And the the reality is, why would you take all the knowledge, experience, expertise, wisdom, everything that you've gained
Mhm.
and then not share it, especially at a time where it's so critical?
Yeah.
A big part of both my mission statement and I committed when I went speaking full time that I would return respect, honor, and dignity to the planet. And
Mhm.
here's what's interesting. Chris Dunham, an amazing speaker and evangelist, who was actually Zig Ziglar's bag carrier. In other words, he went with
Wow.
Zig everywhere and served Zig along the way and became an absolutely amazing, impressive. In 2012, we were in an arena with 25,000 people, and Chris said, political correctness will be the death knell of this country. In
Ooh.
2012.
Wow.
And the point is, it kind of became that, right?
Yeah.
And so the point is we have the lessons, the scars. I mean, I lived through a near-death experience. I'm an overachiever. I lived. You
Mm.
know, you don't go through some of the things that we go through in life, in my opinion, and then not try to utilize those to their fullest to serve more people. We're at a very critical time on our planet right now.
Absolutely.
And we got to a point, we've always had disagreements,
Hmm.
but we were maybe 30 to 45 degrees apart.
Well, well,
All of a sudden we got to 180 degrees. I don't like you. Well, I hate you.
yeah.
Where
I,
does
I,
that get you?
I mean, I remember as a kid, people would have differences of opinion, and then you'd compromise and find some solution that's the middle of the road. And over the last, couple of decades, it's like one side demonizes the other side, and then there's no compromise and there's no middle of the road solution, which is where most people are anyway. And so there's like stalemate and there's antagonism and there's just more and
Right.
more polarity and division than ever before.
And that's why, I mean, it has always been my platform to return respect, honor, and dignity to the planet.
Mm,
But I think it's probably needed more today than it's ever been.
yeah,
Respect is how I treat you.
right.
Honor is how I lift you up. If both of
Mm,
us do that well, we both experience dignity. The point is,
mm,
respect doesn't say I have to agree with you or I
mm,
don't even have to like you,
right,
but I do need to respect you.
right.
You're a fellow human being walking this planet. Let's help me understand. And actually, during the pandemic, one of the questions I came up for my coaching clients
Mm,
is because I had a bunch of people that were really angry about a lot of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And the first thing you have to do is kind of diffuse that a little bit, right?
Mm,
As simple as this sound, I came up with a question to ask when you're really at those loggerheads.
mm,
Is it possible?
mm,
Is it possible that their position is correct? Is it
mm,
possible that their position is something worth considering? Now,
mm,
at least what that does is slows you down, calms your breath enough
yeah.
to go, huh, I still don't agree with it. Okay.
Mm-hmm,
Nobody said it, you have to agree with everything.
mm-hmm,
But is it possible, right? And I think that
right,
that's the part that we've that's what I'm saying about we got so diametrically opposed. Again,
right,
I don't
right,
like you. Well, I hate you. Where's the escalation come from?
right,
Why
right.
I don't like you. Well, I don't like you either. Well, is there anything you like about me? Well, okay, you have hair. Okay, cool. I have hair. There's a positive, right? The,
Yeah.
and maybe that's a little bit silly and a little naive, but we have choice in life.
Yes.
Remember back, I became I learned how to talk to people so that I could talk to people. I
Mm,
literally was in a group of Gen Zs not too long ago, and I said, you know what I've noticed, and please correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't seem like you guys like to talk to each other. And one of
mm,
them said, of course we do. We text. I said, that's not what I said. I said, you don't seem to like to talk. Open your mouth. Well,
mm,
texting is talking. No, texting is texting.
mhm,
Yes, it's a form of communication, but do you actually see we're human beings in a
mm,
social
mm,
environment, and
mm,
we need to be social. We
mhm,
need to be able to communicate in multiple modes. And
right.
if there's one thing that my generation has had to do is learn all the different modes throughout time
Mhm,
because they showed up,
right,
right?
right.
And
Had to
so
adapt. Yeah.
we had to adapt. Some of the younger generations have never had to adapt. The only thing they know is the only thing they know. And so
Mm,
part of my commitment to the younger generations is if you have want to, I'll help you. If
mm,
you want to learn how to talk to people, I'll help you learn how to talk to people. If you
mm,
want to learn how to treat people with respect, honor, and dignity, I'll
mm.
help you. That being said, I'm not in the convincing business
Right,
and I'm not in the push the rope business.
right.
If you raise your hand and say, I want to learn, I want to understand more, I
Mm,
will do everything in my power to be of service to you.
mm,
Why? I've written checks to 19 mentors across my career. And every time I wrote one of those checks, I said the exact same thing. Give me everything you got, and my commitment is I won't keep it. I will share it with my
mm,
clients and my students and ultimately become an extension of you.
mm,
And therefore they did. It is
mm,
now my turn
mm,
to be able to act on those exact same things. If somebody has want to, they want to learn how to do it better, how to learn to do it different, to treat people with respect, honor, and dignity. I believe I have the opportunity to be of service to them so that we can downstream
Mhm.
things. I'm
Mhm.
not one of the folks in my age group that has given up on the younger generations.
Mhm.
I'm just the opposite. If we
Yeah.
don't invest in them,
Mhm.
shame on us.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Yeah. And while we may say things differently from the younger generations, I also see some really good stuff in the younger
True.
generation. And there's an openness and a desire to do the right thing in a way that I haven't seen for a long time.
They've got energy where we have knowledge, experience, expertise, and wisdom. They have energy, enthusiasm,
Yeah.
drive, excitement.
Yeah.
Well, what's the best combination? This
Hmm.
generation needs this. This
Hmm.
generation needs this.
Mm.
Bringing it together is the best
Mm.
possible combination.
Yeah. And uh, we talked a little bit about how like today's world is different than yesterday's world. What we're dealing with and the challenges are 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 pretty monumental. How does helping people to, well, I mean, ostensibly be better salespeople, better talkers, better connectors, how can that help people today to deal with the bigger challenges that we have with change, AI, climate, the world political situation? How does all this help us?
Well, there's 8.5 billion people on the planet, and I'm pretty sure those 8.5 billion have figured out how to make more. I don't think that's ever going to change, right?
Yeah.
And so I think a big part of it is understanding that there's always going to be challenges, there's always going to be problems. How have we worked out problems in the past? We have worked out problems in the past through discussion, through
Hmm.
conversation.
Hmm.
And therefore, if problems are not going away, but if the ability to discuss goes away, that in itself becomes
Hmm.
another problem.
Problem. Yeah.
And so again, I think we have to understand. I One of the things that I suggest, if you truly want to AI proof yourself, and AI is awesome. I'm
Hmm.
a unicorn. I'm unabashedly new school, new
Hmm.
technology,
Hmm.
AI, use the tools that are available, mashed up with old school, belly to belly, face to face, personal communication. I'm a
Hmm.
unicorn. That's cool. I choose to be a unicorn. You got to know both
Hmm.
sides, right?
Right.
Well, if you truly want to, if you want to utilize the attributes of I encourage it. It has happened. There's always been innovation.
Hmm.
If you want to AI proof yourself, do the things, become better at the things that AI doesn't do, like empathy,
Hmm.
compassion, being
Hmm.
human.
Hmm.
Why? Because it's not human. We
Right.
are uniquely and divinely created to have empathy and compassion and feelings and nurturing and things that AI does not do. Now, it can be programmed toward some of them,
Hmm.
but it is not us.
Right.
And so, if you truly want to be more important on the planet, become more human, become the
Hmm.
things that the tools cannot do or will not
Hmm.
do. Again, there's some things that it does that are absolutely phenomenal. Great.
Right.
That now
Right.
saves you time. Well, guess what?
Right.
If you use AI to get some time back and you're a parent, why not use that extra time you got back to actually be with your kids and spouse more,
Right.
right?
Right.
So leverage it. I think those are our opportunities. But again, it's just like, and Sam, I'm sure I heard your story earlier about your mom and your dad, and my dad didn't know anything until I got older. And
Hmm.
then he knew a whole lot of things.
Then he was so wise.
And he
Yeah.
was so wise, right? And so I think understand we thought the same way the younger generations think. The difference is I was blessed enough to have people like Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar was a friend. His son
Mm.
Tom and daughters Julie and Cindy are still friends to this day.
Oh, wow.
I'm blessed to be able to call them friend and to be
Mm.
able, you know, they go, but that's so old school. Yeah, you know why? Because it worked. Old school worked.
Right,
Treating people with respect, honor, and dignity works.
right,
I would
right,
encourage you just explore a little bit.
right, right. And especially in today's world, because we're so connected, we're so kind of international. I mean, anybody who can do what they do online is pretty much an international business right from the
Mhm.
get-go. In some ways, it's more competitive than ever before.
Well, it's
So,
also a greater opportunity to
opportunity.
differentiate yourself.
Yes, yes.
You know, I was blessed to be out on the road with the best of the best.
Mm,
And I've shared the stage with every great one and everyone that thought they were great.
mm,
And I'll let that settle. But there were people that were absolutely the salt of the earth, and you'd see them on stage and you'd go, wow, everybody loves them. And then you'd
mm.
see them backstage and you'd go, ah, that's why they love them. They're the
Ah,
same person.
yeah,
And then you'd see others who were on stage were a totally different thing than they were off stage.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so you learn the lessons over time. And
yeah.
the point is we all have one of the things I suggest to my coaching clients is act as if you're on camera
Mm.
24/7, 365 for two reasons. Number one, you probably are. But the other side of it is if you think from a place of I'm on camera, would you act differently? And
Mm,
and again, there's just that extra little level of consideration. You know,
mm,
people, it's so interesting. Um, I wrote it in one of my books when I got back after a near-death experience and I was able to go out in public again. We went to a grocery store to try to normalize. And we
mhm,
were walking down an aisle, and there was a woman coming toward me, and I smiled at her.
mm.
And she looked at me like, you know, she turned and ran the other way. And so we came down the next aisle, and there was another woman, and I stopped and I smiled at her. And she kind of looked at me and she was like, well, why did you smile? And I said, because I can.
Mm,
And then we went down the third aisle, and there's a woman walking, and I kind of blocked the aisle with the cart purposely. And she goes, what are you doing? I said, I just want to smile at you. She said, why? I said, because I can. She goes, that's so awesome. Can I give you a hug? And I said,
ah,
yes. See, sometimes we think it's really hard to make a difference,
mm,
and it's not. It's a
mm,
decision, it's a
mhm,
choice. You make the choice to smile at people, and you automatically improve two lives, yours and theirs.
mm.
Decision comes from the Latin decidere, to cut off.
Right,
You decide,
right,
you cut off
oh,
the other option.
right.
You know, if you're happy, tell your face, smile, have some fun, right? Laugh. That's one of the things I've always loved
Mm,
about you and our relationship is you've always had this great laugh. You can always tell when you're in the room before you come into the room, you know,
thank
because
you.
you're happy, you're smiling, you're laughing, you're bringing joy into the room. That's a choice.
Mm, mm,
Anything beyond that is also a choice. I
yeah,
mean, this is the conscious consultant hour.
yes,
Conscious. Make the decision
right.
to make the world a better place. Sales is a necessary process to communicate a message from one person or company to another.
Mm-hmm,
So I made the choice, the decision that I was going to do it with the greatest quality I possibly could and
mm,
also teach others to do the same. Now, are there
mm,
people who have taught it differently? Oh, yeah.
mm,
Could I do what they do? I could. I won't.
Mm.
Not a
Mhm.
chance. You asked it before. Would you sell something that you didn't believe in? No. If I don't believe in it, there's a reason I don't believe in it.
Mm.
And if I don't believe in it and I try to convince somebody it will solve their problem and it wouldn't, that's manipulation.
Yeah, 100%.
So therefore, no. The again, do things change over time? Yeah. You get more information, you learn more about things. All of a sudden, people start shortcutting. Prime example, a client many, many years ago made an absolutely exceptional product,
Mm.
and somebody changed the formulations so
Uh,
that they could make more profit. And guess what? The product wasn't as good, didn't work as well,
mm.
didn't deliver the original benefits,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
but the price was the same.
yeah,
Nope, done,
yeah, yeah,
right? So again, there are times where we've got to make decisions. And again, it's not my task to make anybody else's decision for them or whatever. I believe it is my task. It's just like I'm a Christian. I know
mm-hmm,
you're Jewish.
mm-hmm,
It is not my job to get you to believe what I believe.
mm-hmm.
It is my job to be a living example of what I believe,
Right.
just as it is your job to be a living
Mm-hmm,
example of what you believe.
mm-hmm.
And then we can have a conversation.
Right.
It's not, again, and I think that's where I think a lot of what's going on in the world today is people have taken it to the extent that it's my job to get you to believe what I believe.
Right. And
It's
if you
your
don't,
job to, in my opinion, it's your job to be a living example of what you believe and give people the
exactly.
choice to accept it.
Right. To be the role model. And if someone chooses not to believe you, they're just a different role model. That's all.
Exactly.
I, I'm,
It's not
I'm
about right or wrong.
right.
But it's about both and. It's
Yes.
not either or. It's both and.
Right. So how do we be more inclusive?
Right.
With all you've been through, all you've learned, the near-death experience, I wish we talked about that a little bit more, but we're running out of time. I'm just curious, do you still have challenges today?
Not since this morning. Yeah, of course you do. You always have challenges.
Yeah,
It's not about not having challenges. You're going to be off course far more than you're ever on course in your life. The
yeah.
question isn't about being off course. It's working to be off course less far, less often. And
Mm,
and so when you identify something, that it's not working, what
mm,
could you do that would work better?
mm.
And then you explore that. And sometimes it takes experimentation and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
the reality is I'm blessed to be married over 30 years.
Mm,
And as much as you'd like to say everything was rainbows and puppy dogs, and it's 30 years.
yes,
Stuff has happened in 30 years,
sure.
but you're happily married after 30 years because you work at the
Right.
modifications and you do the different things. It's not about being without challenges.
Yeah.
It's
That's
about saying, you know what? I've been there before, beat it before, knocked it down. You know, faith and fear share the same definition. Confidence in the unseen, assurance of the unknown.
mm,
Confidence of the unseen is fear. I haven't
mm,
seen it yet, but I'm afraid of it.
yeah,
Assurance of the unknown. It hasn't happened yet, but boy, it's going to be bad.
yeah, yeah.
But it's also the definition of faith. Confidence in the unseen. It hasn't happened yet, but I
Mm,
know it's going to be great.
hmm.
Assurance of the unknown. Yeah, it's not here, but boy, I can't wait till it is.
What helps you to stay on course?
Surrounding myself with great friends like you and great communities and
Mm,
you know people that I admire and
mm,
people who are those living examples who are aligned core values. You know, having my core values are faith, integrity, honesty, courage, and stewardship. People
Mm.
who align, right? Alignment are the things because we all get knocked off course. I
Yeah.
mean, it is going to happen. But if you have some people that say, "Hey, buddy, you're a little quiet today. What's going on?"
Yeah.
Or, you know, haven't heard from you in a bit, just checking in on you.
Yeah.
You know, we all we're all going to face it.
Hmm.
And especially in these times. I mean,
Hmm.
my goodness, there's so many people who seemingly want to be upset.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
You know, why? You know, I, again, I was on a podcast earlier today and somebody said, "You just seem so happy and full of life." I said, "Well, number one, I just had a birthday, so I'm getting younger." And I said,
Ah.
the other side of it is I'm in my core genius and I love every bit of
Mm.
it. And as
Mm.
soon as you do that, when you get aligned, joy,
Yeah.
happiness, fun, ease, not necessarily.
So,
There's
right.
still stuff.
Well, Scott, a belated happy birthday.
Well, thank you.
And
I accept.
I could talk with you for hours. Unfortunately, we are coming to the end of the show. If people want to learn more about you, get in touch with you, where can they find you online? How would they reach out?
Scott at scottschilling.com. I don't hide well.
Hmm.
One website is scottschilling.com. My
Hmm.
podcast site is championsofinspiration.com.
All
Would
right. Wonderful.
love to meet you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. I highly recommend if you have questions or if you just want to have a conversation with Scott, reach out to him. He's a great human being. Scott, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come on my show today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Sam. It's always a blast.
Always, always. And of course, thank you, my loyal listeners, for tuning in each week. Without you, there is no show. Don't forget, if you did miss any part of today's show, you can always catch the replay on talkradio.nyc and on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Take care, everyone. We will talk to you all next week.